Every year, the same ritual repeats. A new calendar, a new promise, a new version of yourself. Imagined, declared, and announced. This year will be different. And yet, for most people, it isn't. By February, the motivation fades. By March, the pattern returns. And by December, the same resolutions are made again. Carl Jung believed this wasn't a failure of discipline. He believed it was a misunderstanding of how the human psyche actually changes. The new year feels powerful because it represents a symbolic break, a psychological clean slate, a sense of renewal. But Jung understood something modern culture often forgets. Time does not transform the psyche. Awareness does. A new year does not automatically create a new self. It simply reveals the one already there. Most New Year's resolutions are made by the ego, the part of you that plans, controls, decides who you should be. I should be healthier. I should be more productive. I should finally change. But Jung warned that the ego is not the ruler of the psyche. It is only one voice among many. And when the ego makes a promise the unconscious does not agree with, the unconscious always wins. The unconscious does not follow calendars. Jung believed the psyche operates in cycles, not deadlines. The unconscious moves slowly, symbolically, on its own timetable. When people try to force change without listening inward, the psyche resists, not out of sabotage, but out of protection. Because many habits exist for a reason. They regulate anxiety, they numb pain, they preserve identity. Removing them without understanding why they exist creates inner conflict, and conflict leads back to the familiar. Until you make the unconscious conscious. One of Jung's most famous insights explains this perfectly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Most people call failed resolutions a lack of motivation. Jung would call them messages ignored. The pattern didn't fail, it repeated, and repetition in Jungian psychology is meaningful. Every resolution casts a shadow. If you vow to be disciplined, there is a part of you that resists control. If you vow to be productive, there may be exhaustion you've ignored. If you vow to fix yourself, there is often shame beneath the motivation. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of yourself you learn to suppress in order to be accepted. The shadow does not disappear at midnight on December 31st. It waits, and when ignored, it acts out. From a Jungian perspective, resolutions fail because they are socially conditioned, persona-driven, disconnected from inner truth. People resolve to become who they think they should be, not who their psyche is actually trying to become. The unconscious responds by pulling them back, not to punish, but to be heard. Jung believed ancient cultures understood something modern society lost. They didn't rely on willpower. They used ritual. Ritual marked transformation, initiation, psychological death, and rebirth. The new year once symbolized inner renewal. Today it has been reduced to productivity goals, but without meaning, goals collapse. Jung would not tell you to set better resolutions. He would tell you to ask better questions. Why does this pattern exist? What does it protect me from? What am I afraid to face? What part of myself have I not integrated? Real change begins there, not in force, but in understanding. Jung's central idea was individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole. Not perfect, not optimized, whole. Individuation does not begin on January 1st. It begins the moment you stop running from yourself, when you listen instead of control, when you integrate instead of suppress. From a Jungian view, the new year is not a command to change. It is an invitation to reflect, to notice what repeats, to observe what resists, to listen to what refuses to go away. Because the psyche repeats until it is understood, So instead of resolving to become someone new, resolve to become more honest, more attentive, more willing to face discomfort, not to conquer yourself, but to understand yourself, because the deepest transformation is not forced, it emerges. Carl Jung never promised easy change. He promised meaningful change. And meaning does not come from the calendar. It comes from the courage to look inward. The new year does not change you. Awareness does.